Evening for those of you who might be watching in Malaysia or Singapore. So today is the third of this 6-session special program that we have been doing for this month of Saka Dawa. Saka Dawa is the month of Vaishaka. Vaishaka is the month it is said that the historical Buddha was born. The Buddha achieved enlightenment, and the Buddha passed away, all happening on this very special month. So now, because of that, there's always an increase of kind of what we call Dharma practice during this period. Of course, Dharma practice is something like, brushing teeth. Not only do we get all serious and diligent when the appointment with the dentist is coming up, which I'm sure we all kind of do that. But for good dental hygiene, brushing regularly, several times a day, flossing, regularly, all that is necessary, So this practice, this meditation, this compassion meditation, is good mental flossing. Yeah. So let us begin with the opening recitations. So these texts for this Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday compassion meditation for Saka Dawa program. The texts are available at U-Dharma NC, the alphabet U, dharmanc.com/Saka Dawa, SAKADAWA. If you're watching on Facebook, I have posted that information there. And I believe if you're watching, joining us on Zoom, then you already know where to get the text. So beginning with the opening recitations, which this time, how we're going to do this is I'm going to read in English one time all the way through. And then I'm going to chant in Tibetan. And so you can either join in the chant in Tibetan or continue to contemplate and let the meaning of these words come into your heart, kind of suffuse your whole being, so to say. Don't dwell on this or that particular word or phrase that you don't understand yet. Just very lightly, like a sponge, just absorb in whatever that can be absorbed. Sometimes, like sponges in general, has great capacity to absorb. But have you noticed, right? Sometimes a piece of sponge that is very dry and very new, even when you throw it into a pool of water, initially, nothing goes in, And then if you give up at that point and say, oh, this is not a sponge, and pick it up and throw it away, then you have lost an opportunity. But with a little bit more patience, so once one corner of this sponge, gets compromised, so to say, then so quickly, the rest of the sponge will absorb everything. So same way with our minds. Right now it's very rigid. Our hearts, our mind, right now is very rigid, like this hard piece of sponge. Mm. So you kind of sprinkle with water, or even you throw in water. It seems like it's not absorbing. But yeah, I can guarantee you, if you have a little bit more patience, let it kind of soak, let it at its own pace start to absorb a little bit, and then very soon the whole piece of sponge will be completely moist, wet. And so in this way, please relax body and mind. Mentally, you have to make the resolve too and say, for the next hour, hour and a half, next hour, you're saying no to everything else. You don't have to say no to everything else by forcing yourself to pretend that whatever it is that is trying to get your attention is completely pointless. You don't have to force yourself to think that way. Especially if you're just beginning this. Right now, you can just say to whatever else that might be trying to compete for your attention, just say to them, later. Later. Firmly, but gently. Later. You can even say to them, right now, I have to focus 100% here. Because whatever I will learn, whatever that I will train here, makes it easier, better, more efficient when I come and pay attention to you. Even these distractions, recognize and say to them, I know why you are important. Because you are part of my search for happiness. You are part of my search for freedom from suffering. They are. Whatever else, even the things that stress us, they are actually part of our search for happiness, our search for freedom from suffering. But why do they stress us? Why do they annoy us? Why do they bring us more suffering? Because we don't know how to relate to them. So the practice of compassion has to begin first with a recognition that all our desires, all our aspirations, whether the desire to fight, to retaliate, or the aspiration to be free from fighting, to be free from the need to retaliate, whether noble or ignoble, whether virtuous or non-virtuous, the underlying desire is simply wanting to achieve happiness, not wanting to experience suffering. This is the great equalizer for every single sentient being. Everyone. From the greatest and the mightiest and the most powerful to the smallest, most insignificant to most people, doesn't matter. We're all motivated by the same thing. Where the difference lies is how we go about achieving this deepest of desires. Most of us end up going the route of creating more suffering in our search for freedom from suffering. Most of us lack understanding or clarity. Not sinful, not bad, simply lacking in understanding and clarity. So that in going about trying desperately to achieve happiness and to be free from suffering, we in turn create a whole gamut of causes of suffering and destroy all the causes of happiness. And so now we say, I need to rewire this internal system. I need to reroute all these circuits of confusion that bring about the result of suffering. I need to rewire them. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a sinful person. I am just not seeing clearly. Now I have the opportunity to see clearly. And so now I can do the work of rewiring these circuits, these internal circuits. Now this internal circuit needs to be wired with clarity, with understanding, and with kindness, and with openness. And therefore I engage in, and therefore I learn, therefore I endeavor in cultivating friendly, virtuous, skillful circuits, states of mind, quality of heart. And with that, we now make our formal commitment to this task with the following recitations that you first listen to in English. And then if you want, you can join in the chant in Tibetan. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructives who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in a state of the most perfect and precious awakening. Thus, until I achieve awakening, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until awakening is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, 4 continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all migratory beings experience such a pure land. Dala Dhawa Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Gek Darba Dham Tham Je Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Dham Jegi Su Jebe Ma Namkada Nampe Senjen Tham Je Dewa Dham Den Dunya Dham Re Nerdu Lana Mepaya Dabra Zobe Janju Rinpoche Tobra Dala Dawa Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Ge Tarba Dan Tam Je Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jegi Ze Jebe Ma Nangada Nampe Senjen Tam Je Dewa Dan Den Dunya Dan Re Nerdu Lana Mebaya Dabra Zobe Janju Rinpoche Tobar Dala Nawa Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Ge Tarbada Tom Je Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jegi Su Jebe Ma Namkada Nambe Senjen Tam Je Dewa Dan Den Dunya Dan De Nudu Lana Mepaya Dabra Zobe Janju Rinpoche Tobar de Sama Gege Bardu Lunga Yizum Gewala Ko Mashi Bardu Lunga Yizum Gewala Ko De Dering Ne Sunde Nema Sang Ta Samji Bardu Lunga Yizum Gewala Ko Sangye Chodang Soge Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Tani Gebze Je Dage Jinsu Gebe Sonangi Drala Bencher Sangye Drubra Shu Sangye Chodang Soge Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Tani Gebze Je Dage Jinsu Gebe Sonangi Drola Penche Sangye Drubra Shu Sangye Chodang Soge Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Dane Gyabzu Je Dage Jinzu Gebe Sonangi Drola Penche Sanje Drupra Ju Namka Da Nyambe Zenchen Damje Dewa Dan Dewen Gindan Dembra Gyuji Dunya Dan Dunya Gi Gyudan Drawa Gyurji Dunya Mebe Dewa Dame Drawa Gyurji Niring Chadang Nidang Drawe Tangyong La Nebra Gyurji Ma Nangka Dang Nyambe Zenjen Tamje Dewa Da Dewen Gindan Dembra Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudan Drawa Gyurji Dunga Mepe Dewa Dangme Drawa Gyurji Niring Chadang Nidang Drawe Tangyong La Nebra Gyurji Nangka Dang Nyampe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudan Dembra Gyurji Dungao Dang Dungyao Gyudan Drawa Gyurji Dungao Mepe Dewa Dang Me Drawa Gyurji Niring Chadang Nidang Drawe Tanyo La Nebra Gyurji Sashi Baju Chishing Meto Dra Rira Linshin Inde Gembadi Sanje Shingla Mikte Bulwayi Jogu Namda Shingdu Jobra Sho Om Guru Deva Tagini Rena Mandala Pratija So. The essence of these opening recitation, I will say that it boils down to 2 points. One, out of love and compassion, which is, in this tradition, in Buddhism, defined as love is the wish that may we have happiness and the causes of happiness. So this word in the original, Maitri or Metta, sometimes it's been pointed out that it is maybe better translated as friendliness. Qualitatively, it is different from that four-letter word, L-O-V-E, love. Love in English is used in so many ways. So many ways that it is liable. It is very easy to think that we are cultivating this kind of love or that kind of love. Or sometimes we might even think that we're cultivating self-sacrificing love. To give away our lives for others. Which of course, the Buddhists would do that. And one should cultivate one's heart to be so completely free from self-grasping, self-clinging, that if such a situation arises, you would not think of yourself, you will only think of the other. But at this level, where we are just beginning, love, what's called metta, what's called maitri over here, what we're cultivating now, is closer to what we might call friendliness. A friendly heart cultivated towards all, a friendly heart, a heart that does not seek to harm, but only seek to be friendly and warm. This warm-heartedness, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama will say, this warm-heartedness, this warm-heartedness that we feel when we see a child playing, very automatically, this warm-heartedness arises, wishing the child well, wishing the child to continue to play happily, wishing that the child is protected from harm. This is the Maitri. This is the happiness and the causes of happiness that we are talking about here. The compassion that we're talking about here, again, it's easy to immediately think this is to try to experience other people's suffering, to feel the suffering that they are suffering, and then to suffer along even. If someone is unhappy and miserable, we should go and maybe if we also become unhappy and miserable, then we can relieve them of their suffering. But here, karuna is not understood as this kind of compassion. Karuna is defined as the wish to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So karuna is the feeling that naturally arises when we see someone suffering. So an example given is when we see someone suffering a terrible disease. In that first moment, without even knowing who this person is, without even having any labels for this person as deserving our attention or not deserving, without any labels of whether this person is a good person or bad person, person you like or person you don't like, independent of all these labels, whenever we see anyone, a human being, an animal, in pain, immediately our heart says, I don't want this. I don't want this person to suffer. I don't want this animal to suffer. I want them to be free from suffering. How can I take this away from them? Sometimes it might involve taking it for ourselves. Sometimes. But the main point is the wish to be free from suffering. The feeling, the sentiment of being willing to take away anyone and everyone's suffering. That is karuna. So one side of these preliminary opening recitations is to meditate and to deepen slowly, slowly these two qualities of love and compassion, of friendliness and kindness. These two have to go hand in hand. The other key element in the opening recitation is the element of wanting, therefore, to achieve the state of Buddha ourselves so that we can be in a much better position to truly help others to also achieve Buddha. Why Buddha? Buddha means awake. Buddha means free from suffering. Buddha means free from confusion. If we want others to achieve happiness and be free from suffering, just as we want to achieve happiness and be free from suffering, we have to recognize that the only true state where happiness and suffering, where happiness is achieved and suffering is removed, is the state of being free from confusion. And so we resolve to become awake, to become Buddha, so that as Buddhas, we can help free others from suffering. We can help others achieve happiness more meaningfully, more powerfully. These two are the two aspects of what is called bodhicitta, the heart of enlightenment, the essence of awakening, consists of these two aspects. Love and compassion is said to be the relative aspect of bodhicitta, and wisdom is the absolute aspect of bodhicitta. And the deity that we meditate on, any Buddha, any awakened principle embodied in this or that form, and in this case, it's the Buddha that we call Avalokiteshvara, or Jinrezi, or Kuan Yin, or Kannon in Japanese. This Buddha figure And all Buddhists are nothing but the embodiment of bodhicitta. So in the main practice, when we meditate ourselves in the form of Kuan Yin, in the form of Avalokiteshvara, in the form of Jinrinzi, know that it is the embodiment of our own bodhicitta. So the more we deepen and cultivate bodhicitta and appreciate bodhicitta, the more powerful, the stronger our visualization, our recitation of Avalokiteshvara will be. And that's why the opening contemplation, the opening recitation, the opening meditation is of fundamental importance. Because the deity, the Buddha that arises next can only arise, can only appear on the basis of the love and compassion and wisdom of the bodhicitta that we are reminded of, that we cultivate right at the beginning. Now let this bodhicitta take the form of Avalokiteshvara, take the form of Kuan Yin. If you don't consider yourself Buddhist, no problem. No quarrels here. Then you can meditate on any form that most easily allows you to feel these qualities of compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom. And think that you are soon going to appear in that form. And more importantly, to radiate those qualities from the very core of your being. If there's no particular form that does that for you, then you can think of a big orb of light. The cooling light that radiates softly in all directions is the love and compassion. The clear light that goes to everywhere, strongly, powerfully, clearly, is the light of wisdom. Let both the sun-like light and the moon-like light radiate from this orb of light that you are. And to summarize these 2 points again, we begin with the refuge and bodhicitta recitation of the Avalokiteshvara practice, starting on page 1. Together, let us say this in English 3 times. The 3 times is 3 opportunities to let what we are saying really enter our hearts. To you, 3 jewels and 3 roots, all you sources of refuge, I go for refuge. To establish all migratory beings as Buddhas, I give rise to supreme bodhicitta. To you, 3 jewels and 3 roots, all you sources of refuge, I go for refuge. To establish all migratory beings as Buddhas, I give rise to supreme bodhicitta. To you, 3 jewels and 3 roots, all you sources of refuge, I go for refuge. To establish all migratory beings as Buddhas, I give rise to supreme bodhicitta. To the three jewels I go for refuge. I confess each misdeed and non-virtue, and rejoice in the virtue of migratory beings. I will also be mindful of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, I go for refuge until awakening is reached. To fully accomplish the benefit of both self and other, I generate this awakening mind. Having generated supreme awakened mind, I will serve all sentient beings and delightfully engage in the supreme deeds of the Bodhisattvas. For the benefit of migratory beings, may I accomplish Buddhahood. Next is the main meditation. In this meditation, as the title of this practice says, it is the visualization and the recitation of the Great Compassionate One. The Great Compassionate One, Buddhists call him Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara, or the Great Compassionate One, or he is also called the Lord of the World. The Lord of the World as in the one who cares about the world. Not the Lord of the world as in the one who lords over the world, but the one who cares about us, the one who cares about the world. So here we are to become this Great Compassionate One. Where does the Great Compassionate One comes from? It comes from our bodhicitta. It is the embodiment of our bodhicitta. It is the embodiment of bodhicitta. In the end, bodhicitta doesn't belong to anyone. No subject, no object. But at the beginning level, bodhicitta is something that we have to use methods to kind of contrive, so to say. But the contriving of bodhicitta at this point is just a method, a skillful way to uncover our pure, pristine nature. And to remove, more importantly, all the obscurations, all the confused views, all the negative karma. And to do that, we use visualization or our imagination. Because whatever the mind thinks, that we become. And the other part of this practice is to use the recitation of the wish-fulfilling mantra, the Mani mantra, the 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. In fact, each of these syllables is the presence of compassion and love in each of the 6 realms of confused existence. The realm of the gods, the realm of the demigods, the realm of humans, the realm of animals, the preta or hungry spirit realm, and the hell realms. In all 6 realms of confused existence, the Lord of the world, the Great Compassionate One, appears, is available, is present. And so in this practice, we visualize or imagine 7 of these Avalokiteshvara. One seated, the principal one seated in the middle, with 6 Avalokiteshvaras of the 6 realms, seated, surrounding, facing the central Avalokiteshvara. You can say that the central Avalokiteshvara is absolute bodhicitta, and the six surrounding are relative bodhicitta. Absolute bodhicitta foregrounds wisdom, but love and compassion is the natural energy that emanates as the other six Avalokiteshvaras. The other six Avalokiteshvaras as relative bodhicitta, appearing in all places that is necessary, foregrounds love and compassion, but with wisdom as its essence, with wisdom as its cause. Wisdom is the cause of love and compassion. So in this way, the seven Avalokiteshvaras that we will now visualize, they are the complete embodiment of both absolute bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta. Now I will recite the corresponding section. You can choose to follow in the reading, or you can just listen. Just to point out, at the first section, where the principal Avalokiteshvara is described, that section ends with the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. Then you should think that each of the syllables of Om Mani Padme Hum, these six syllables, Om becomes the essence of the Avalokiteshvara seated in front, facing you, which is the Avalokiteshvara of the God realms. So then after that Avalokiteshvara is described, a mantra, Om Om Swaha. Then the demigod, Om Ma Swaha, Om Ni Swaha. The middle syllable is basically the six syllables divided into the six realms. Just to point that out in case you have not yet noticed. So now the recitation. I am the great compassionate one, white in color, with one face and four arms, with palms together and holding mala and lotus. Legs crossed, adorned with jewels and silks, seated on a lotus and moon seat. Om Mani Padme Hum. Now visualize white-colored Lord of the world of the God realm, with one face, four arms, palms together, holding a veena and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. Om, Om, Swaha. So this Avalokiteshvara is seated in front of you at the 12 o'clock point on the clock. And the next Avalokiteshvara of the demigod realm will appear at the 2 o'clock point, at the 2 o'clock direction, also facing this principal Avalokiteshvara. Remember that all seven are the embodiment of your absolute and relative bodhicitta. Visualize green-colored Lord of the world of the demigod realm with one face, four arms, palms together, holding sword and armor and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. Om Ma Swaha. Then visualize multicolored Lord of the world of the human realm with one face, four arms, palms together, holding a mala and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. At the 4 o'clock point, Om Ni Swaha. Visualize smoke-colored Lord of the world of the animal realm with one face, four arms, palms together, holding a scripture and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. Om Pet Swaha. Visualize red-colored Lord of the World of the Preta realm at the 8 o'clock point with one face, forearms, and palms together, holding a chest box and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. Om Me Swaha. Finally, visualize black-colored Lord of the World of the Hell realms with one face, forearms, palms together, holding fire and water and a lotus, seated cross-legged on the moon. Om Hong Swaha. In this way, now see in the heart center of the principal deity among the 7 great compassionate ones is a 3 syllable on a moon seat, surrounded by the 6 syllables. In turn, in the heart center of the surrounding 6 Avalokiteshvaras are their respective seat syllables, such as Om and Ma and Ni and so forth. And those seed syllables are also surrounded by the 6-syllable wish-fulfilling mantra. Relative and absolute bodhicitta is the wish-fulfilling jewel, the Mani jewel. And the 6-syllable mantra is the Mani mantra, is the wish-fulfilling mantra. For it is with relative and bodhicitta that all our wishes can and will be fulfilled. All our wishes of whatever kind, they are all rooted in, they all come from the basic, innate, natural wish to have happiness and not to experience suffering. The great equalizer from saint to sinner, from the most powerful to the weakest, and all in between. So you can say that bodhicitta is an embodiment of what we truly are, our Buddha nature, our divine nature, our Christ nature, whatever vocabulary that you might have heard is pointing to this natural state of an innate nature. But it is also pointed out that this innate nature is not something we can objectify, not something that we can turn into this or that specifically, but is always open and spacious, cannot be defined, cannot be pinpointed. But we know that its natural radiance is natural energy, so to say. It's love and compassion. Next, during the recitation, if you recall in the last class, I recommended that you first just listen to the chant as I chant it, and then mentally you can chant it, while physically try to calm your breath, regulate your breath by breathing in the mantra and breathing out the mantra. As you breathe in the mantra, purify your breath. For breath is the basis of life. But we cannot take breath for granted. So breathe in through your nostrils and visualize the 6-syllable mantra being absorbed into yourself. And in that way, you purify the breath that comes in. As you breathe out, bless the breath that leaves the body, so that this breath that goes out can bless and purify others. So breathe in Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out Om Mani Padme Hum. One element that I want to add today for the recitation is, on one level, we think and we understand that when we do the recitation, we are calling forth compassion. We are calling forth love. We're calling forth wisdom. We're calling forth Avalokiteshvara. We're calling forth both absolute and relative bodhicitta. But on a deeper level, you can also understand that this is the call of bodhicitta. This is bodhicitta calling us. This is compassion and love calling us, waking us up. So love and compassion, metta and karuna has the power of calling us. Poetically speaking, we are not just calling Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara is also calling us. So hear this call, respond to this call. The breath that comes in is Avalokiteshvara as the perfect embodiment of love and compassion calling us. Answer this call with your outbreath by pouring forth your own love and compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Now continue to do this visualization and recitation. If you can remember the tune, try to use the tune. As you breathe in, the call of Avalokiteshvara, calling us home, so to say. Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. And we breathe out, responding to the call, blessing our breath as it exits the body. And let this breath go in all directions and blessing all beings everywhere. Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out, Om Mani Padme Hum. If you can remember the tune or that melody, there's a slight advantage in that tune or melody, because it's two recitations each cycle. And the first recitation of the mantra is slightly shorter than the second recitation. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So the out breath is slightly longer than the in breath. And very interestingly, in more recent scientific studies of the effect of breath, and in fact, you can verify this yourself. If you have a blood pressure machine, one of those home things, you can do this experiment and see for yourself. When we inhale, our blood pressure naturally goes up. Our heartbeat naturally increases. As we breathe out, blood pressure naturally goes down. Heartbeat slows down. Our body wants a balance of both. But these days, so many of our bodies are in a constant state of excitement, of stress. And so slightly uh, elongating our exhalation can bring the balance that we need, because our bodies are always triggered right now due to our diet, due to our mental weight and stress. So even though both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems are needed, and they should be in a state of harmony and balance, but the harmony and balance isn't necessarily reached by literally half and half. And so instead of fight and flight, we can reach the balance that we need now by focusing more on resting, of being at ease. So breathe in, and then as you breathe out the mantra, slightly make it longer. So I'm going to chant a few more times this mantra according to that tune, so that you get the tune, and then I'm going to go silent, and then you can keep meditating. Breathe in the mantra, the call of Avalokiteshvara. Breathe out by responding to that call. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. You can continue to meditate on these breath coming in, going out, as I do the praise that follows the recitation of the mantra. So you don't need to do the praise if you prefer to continue to meditate. In breath, Om Mani Padme Hum. Out breath, Om Mani Padme Hum. And then listen to the praise. Free in the realm of the great compassionate one, where good and bad are non-dual, appearances are without true existence, existing only in the manner of illusions. Within a state that is naturally pristine and without fixations is the boundless and pristine realm where attachment and aversion is self-liberated. To your realm, great compassionate one, I praise and pay homage. Hong Hri Om Mani Padme Hum. Shri, the indivisibility of appearance and emptiness, the exalted body of the great compassionate one. This empty nature of appearances is like the reflections of the moon on water. Within this great ocean of the empty nature of appearances is the boundless and pristine exalted body of self-liberated empty appearances. To your exalted body, great compassionate one, I praise and pay homage. Shri, the indivisibility of sound and emptiness, the exalted voice of the great compassionate one. This empty nature of sounds like the sound of echoes. Within this great ocean of the empty nature of sounds is the boundless and pristine exalted voice of self-liberated empty sounds. To your exalted voice, great compassionate one, I praise and pay homage. Shri, the indivisibility of clarity and emptiness, the exalted mind of the great compassionate one. This empty nature of clarity is like the color of rainbows. Within this great ocean of the empty nature of clarity is the boundless and pristine exalted mind of self-liberated empty clarity. To your exalted mind, great compassionate one, I praise and pay homage. Shri, the molten lava ground is the realm of the great compassionate one. The bull-headed Ava is the exalted form of the great compassionate one. Kill, kill, strike, strike are the sounds of the 6 syllables. Arrows, spears, and swords are the various offering materials. In the boundless and pristine expanse where happiness and suffering are self-liberated, to you, the great compassionate one of existence and appearances, I praise and pay homage. Now, when you're ready, release the visualization, release the mantra. No need to hold the visualization or the mantra, but simply hold the presence of your mind. Understand that your mind, in its absolute aspect, is wisdom, in its relative aspect, is love and compassion. And simply rest in this state for just a few moments. Then together we will say the dedication that starts on page 14. I dedicate this merit to all my old mother sentient beings of the six realms. By this merit may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions. Through this accumulation of precious merit dedicated to all migratory beings, may they never be separated from the sublime Dharma. By myself and others perfectly realizing the two benefits, may the melodious beat of the Dharma drum beautify this world. May the spread of the Buddha's doctrine ever increase. May all sentient beings be blissful and happy. May they practice the Dharma through the day and night. May the two benefits of self and others be spontaneously accomplished. In all lifetimes, may I never be separated from the perfect gurus, but enjoy the richness of the glorious Dharma. Having thoroughly perfected the exalted qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. This dedication of merit, I just want to point out, there's one line at the beginning that says, I dedicate this merit to all my old mother sentient beings of the six realms. Magen. Magen. This is a very kind of colloquial as well as a very warm expression. One of the things that I learned, after I came to the United States and lived here, but it took me many, 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 many years to learn this, that to call somebody old is not good, it's an insult. I got corrected, no, not old, elderly. Yeah? Don't say old. But in many Asian cultures, old, there's a certain warmness that comes up when we say old, especially when we say my old mother. It's in Mandarin Chinese, for example, it's called Lao Ma. Lao is old. Lao Ba, my old father, my old mother. It's a term of endearment. It brings warmth. It also, yes, of course, it also calls attention to how they are now old, and so we need to take care of them. Oh, then of course, in the West, I'm saying, I don't need anyone to take care of me. Oh, yeah. There is one part of it that is very admirable. People are so independent. But be very careful where we cross the line of independence to isolation and loneliness. Be very careful. So anyway, the main point here is, if you feel a little bit strange, why does it say my old mother sentient beings, And so mother sentient beings, why mother sentient beings? Sentient beings have been, we should think of them as kind to us as our mother has been kind to us, one reason. Second reason, we say, because we have lived so many lifetimes, infinite lifetimes in the past. So then in that sense, there is not a single being that exists that has not at some point been our mothers. And so when we think of them with warmth in our heart, we say, Ma again, my old mothers, my dear mother. So maybe it translates better into English as my dear mother, my dear mother, my dear father, my dear parents, Ma again. So I dedicate this merit to all my dear mothers and fathers of the six realms. When mom and dad is in the God realm, it's a lot easier to love them. When mom and dad turns up in the hungry ghost realm, when they're very needy, oh, very hard to love them. When mom and dad turns up, in the hell realms, it's even harder to love them. But here we say all 6 realms of a love and compassion. We train. We have to train. We have to train, It doesn't come easy. The good news is it's innate to us. But if we think that because it's innate to us, we don't need to train and we don't need to purify, then it will not happen. It's not going to happen by itself. So this is an important point, I think, that we have to remember. So now a few minutes to see if there's any comments, any questions, whether on Facebook, you can type the questions, or on Zoom, you can ask the questions, you can type the questions. I'm sure someone will help me read them, and I will try to answer them. Just a few minutes before we say goodbye. Any comments, anything to share?
I'll just say that your introduction to this practice this morning, I thought was absolutely wonderful. You summarized, I think, the reason to follow this path beautifully, and I thank you for that.
Good, thank you. It's good to have reminders. When I have an opportunity to share with you, I'm working on reminding myself. During the Lojong teachings on Thursday night, just this past Thursday, I talked about compassion, and I said, let me confess to you, and let me also give you, a very practical way of measuring how much love and compassion, especially compassion, how much compassion have I developed. Think of compassion think of the compassionate heart as a willingness to be inconvenienced. A willingness to be inconvenienced. So simple, the definition. It can also be so hard, but so honest, when we look at that and we say, okay, today I was a lot more willing to be inconvenienced. Then okay, some signs of compassion has arisen. Then on the days where you're like, oh God, why is this person always, inconveniencing me? Then need to work more. As simple as that. I can go into reading scriptures, quoting scriptures, defining and hair splitting line by line. 3 types of compassion, they say. Compassion radiated, generated to beings that are but the collection of the 5 aggregates. That is said to be the first type of compassion. Compassion generated to beings that we see that they only exist momentarily. There's no really existing being, but even in the momentary existence, we can have momentary love and compassion towards them. And then the great compassion that is without reference point. So there are all these details, But I will say, for most of us, we can just start with, yeah, how willing am I to be inconvenienced? I'm working on that, and thank you, because in my role as a teacher, I say one benefit is, I have to confess, maybe I'm kind of like myself too much, but I do go and watch videos of my own teaching. I do. Uh, uh, but one reason is what it does is that it shows me, my hypocrisy more clearly. Don't worry, I don't have the thing where I beat myself. It's not part of my cultural or mental emotional baggage. I don't have that. I don't have original sin in my system. that not this lifetime. So I watch, so my opportunities to share with you these things is I find myself, really very helpful, because when I say things, I try to think, hey, are you actually doing what you're saying? A lot of times, no, because of habit. Intentionally, I can say I do, but habit of forgetting, that's the problem. So forgetfulness, so mindfulness as remembering, mindfulness as remembering is important. So I am glad that this has been helpful to everyone. So think, breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out, if you can, longer. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, breathe in. Om Mani Padme Hum, breathe out. We have 3 more classes, 3 more sessions for this. In the 3 more sessions, I will say more about the different things that are seen in this sadhana, such as the symbolism of what is held in the hands of the 6 Avalokiteshvaras of the 6 realms. But those are helpful as supporting. First, get a taste of the main body of this practice. The deity is the embodiment of bodhicitta. From beginning to end, we are cultivating bodhicitta. So you all have a good day, have a good weekend. For those of you,
Guru,
yes.
Sorry, there's one question pop up in the chat room.
Oh, okay, please.
In what context do you say that it's hard to imagine our mothers in lower realms? Thinking in them suffering is easier to generate bodhicitta.
Oh, I'm just saying, yes. In terms of visualization, when we see the lower realms, of course, when we consider the lower realms, it's easier to generate love and compassion for them. I'm talking about in real life. In real life, when your mom or your dad, often the people closest to you, when they are in a bad mood, oh my God, it will trigger all the things that you resent about whatever, come out. So I'm talking about, not visualization when it's in front of you, and they behave like hungry ghosts, very needy, right? Oh, and this is where the Buddha's teachings is so helpful. Buddha says, actually, it's your perception. So when we have, even with not just parents, but using this metaphor of parents, even with parents that on such a deep level, we know they have been so kind to us that we truly love them. But oh man, different people differently, when we see them We see them. So that already one point Buddha says is your perception. Maybe there is some reality, but it's still your perception. So when we see them, becoming needy, then we like, oh, you're very needy. Maybe we don't say out loud, but in fact, we think, oh, you're getting more and more needy. And I can't do this. And we even justify it by saying, I cannot feed this, it's not good for them. Then we have to examine. That is a manifestation of Preta realm. Or they become like covered with confusion. Then that's the animal realm. So especially these days, if you have parents who, have a different opinion about, certain politics, certain things like that, oh, immediately, like, oh, you get very upset, love and compassion. Yeah, so that's what I mean by it's hard. Those closest to us, can trigger all kinds of very strong emotions. Train with those closest to us. Yeah, so I was going to say, those of us who are practicing in the Drigong Kagyu tradition, just a reminder, tomorrow is a very program-filled day. For those of us in the Western Hemisphere, tomorrow at 8 in the morning, New York time, we have so many different time zones represented here, but 8 in the morning, New York time, Sunday, His Holiness the Drigong Kyabgon leads the Guru Puja practice to commemorate the 803rd anniversary of Kyobajik Densumgen. It will go from 8 to around 10, I believe. Then starting at 11 New York time to 11 to 1, Kyabje Gachen Rinpoche will lead also in this commemoration. And then 4 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon. So this is for the Western Hemisphere, the timing. So not so convenient for those of you in Asia, but of course you can watch afterwards. So all that information on how to tune in, how to participate, text to use, all of that, you can look for in Facebook. So the International Drigong Kagyu Council in Taiwan is arranging for His Holiness to do the 8 to 10. Then the North American Drigong Kagyu Committee or something, I don't remember the exact name, they are organizing for Kyabje Gachen Rinpoche to lead in the commemoration in the West. And so different languages included as well, translation for Gachen Rinpoche's program. I think Vietnamese, German, Spanish, and Russian, and English, of course. So please go look around on the internet, on Facebook. If you cannot find it, go to the Drigong Kagyu Foundation Facebook page, and we have shared all these announcements. Yeah. Then if not, some of you I will see on Monday in our Guru Puja and Gongchik study group. Remember, this Monday, we are also commemorating Kyoba Rinpoche's Mahaparinirvana. Actually, Monday is the actual day for us. I mean, this year is Monday. It's also Dakini Day, what we call Dakini Day, the 25th day of the month. So otherwise, you all have a good weekend. Be well. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.